To Asked and Answered. We have Asked and Answered these days on Wednesday nights. We moved them from Sundays to Wednesdays because we have the homily on Sundays. So now we have our regular lives. You'll remember from earlier posts on Sundays for homily, on Wednesdays for Asked and Answered, and on Saturdays, as we have for like 8 months now, or maybe 7 months, for Pray With Me. So today's question is, Father Bryce, what's the deal with indulgences? I heard something about the Pope last week with an indulgence, and what does that mean? And well, let me tell you what that means. We can't talk about indulgences without talking about purgatory, because those two things kind of go together. So let's say that I was a kid and I was playing baseball in the backyard. And I used to do this, throw the baseball up, I'd hit it, and I was playing baseball in the backyard, and I accidentally hit the baseball through my neighbor's window. Well, that would be bad, and I made a mistake. I missed the mark. I missed the baseball. Whatever. We could. Well, now we have a problem. I am guilty of breaking the window with the baseball, but also the baseball, the window has to be fixed. So I break the window with the baseball, and I go over to my neighbor, or I could go tell my dad, and then we go over together to my neighbor. I'm like, look, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't. I'll do it again. I won't do it again. And the neighbor says, okay, I forgive you. I forgive you. Don't worry about it. Does the window magically fix itself when he forgives me? Well, of course not. There's still a broken window. The window has to be repaired. The window has to be repaired. So something similar happens when we sin. When I come into sin, it's kind of like I hit a baseball through the window of my own soul, or I put a bruise on my soul. And then when we go to confession, God forgives us of our sins, but the bruise is still there. Just because we have forgiveness, the bruise doesn't magically go away. The broken window, so to speak, doesn't magically go away just because we said, I'm sorry, and he said, I forgive you. We got to fix the window. And of course, when we're little kids, and most of us, even as adults, we don't know how to fix a window. So what do we have to do? We have to go to work, and we have to earn money, and then we have to buy a new window. We have to pay somebody to come and to install a window. And that's one of the reasons why when you come to confession, when I go to confession, we get penances. That's to work to repairing the damage to our souls. But what if the neighbor said, I forgive you, and I said, okay, Dad, I'm going to go work, and I'm going to earn some money, and I'm going to pay for the window. And Dad says, you know what? I think you learned your lesson. I really think you learned your lesson, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to pay for the window, and I'm going to fix it. That's what an indulgence is. It's God, through the church, giving us the money, so to speak. The Gospels use that term, use that financial language all the time to talk about salvation, as does St. Paul. So it's like God giving us the money to fix the window. So Jesus Christ, when he died on the cross, the Blessed Virgin Mary, as she suffered with him, earned an astronomical amount of merit, earn an astronomical amount of grace. They have particularly Jesus is infinite merit. So Jesus has infinite money in the bank, so to speak, to fix a window. Mary had a whole ton, and the saints have all these extra merits, so to speak, in the bank to fix the window. So when Jesus says to Peter in Matthew 16:18, you are Peter, and upon this rock I'll build my church, and I give to you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, that goes back to the Old Testament, as seen, for example, in the book of prophet Isaiah, where the steward of the kingdom of David had keys, and his job was to take care of all of the property of the king. So the Pope, because he has the keys which unlock the treasure chest of the graces that are infinite from Jesus's death on a cross, can choose to give us an opportunity to, so to speak, pay for our broken windows. And that's what an indulgence is. It's wherein we are freed not only from the guilt of our sin, but from the temporal punishment due to sin, from the broken windows, so to speak. There are two kinds of indulgences. There's a plenary indulgence, which means it's a full indulgence, and that takes away all the punishment for our sins that could possibly be, all those temporal consequences, all that time in purgatory. And then there's a partial indulgence, which takes away some of it. Back in the day, you may see like old prayer cards or something, and they'll say like 20 days indulgence or 200 days indulgence or whatever. And we don't really, we don't use that language now, but the language was good because what it meant was that you receive the graces as if you had done 20 days of penance. Or you receive the graces as if you had done 200 days of penance. Some people have this false idea that indulgence is like time off. It's like 200 days off of purgatory. Well, purgatory doesn't work that way. So what like 200 days indulgence would mean is that you receive the graces from the treasure chest that the Pope unlocks with his keys that were given, not his physical keys, but his spiritual keys that were given him by Jesus from Peter in Matthew 16:18 to let this treasury of graces overflow in our lives. Now, you and I all know that a lot of times a dad won't pay for the window for his son, but he'll have his son work to earn the money to pay for the window. Why? Because that's good for his son. And that's actually better for his son than if dad had just paid for the window, even if he can afford it. So you might ask, well, why didn't the Pope just give all these indulgences all the time? Well, that's why. Because it's oftentimes better for us to do the work, to do the penance. And that's good for our souls, and that's good for our holiness. But from time to time, it's really good for our dad to just come in and to take care of it. So in the time of this pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, last Friday, the Pope gave a special blessing. And he gives his blessing, I think twice a year, though I'm not positive. But this time, this is a third time or an extra time. A blessing, I forget the order. It's either an Urbi et Orbi blessing or an Orbi et Urbi blessing. Either way, the words are for the world, like orb, like the globe, and for the city, like urban, the city of Rome. So he gives a blessing as Bishop of Rome to the city of Rome, and as the Pope, as the Vicar of Christ for the whole world, to the entire world. So he gave this special blessing. He gave us all benediction, the special blessing with the Blessed Sacrament, and in that, he imparted the indulgence. So what do you have to do to get an indulgence? Well, you have to do one of the things that an indulgence is attached to. For example, watching the Pope on TV on Friday. Or, normally, you could read the Bible for 30 minutes. That's a way to get a plenary indulgence. Or you could do several other things that are just like normal plenary indulgence things. And then with that, you have to go to confession within 20 days, either before or after. You have to receive communion within 20 days after. And you have to pray for the Pope, usually Our Father, Hail Mary, Glory be. And then you have to, for a plenary indulgence, be detached from all sin. Like, I don't want to sin anymore. That's it. Jesus, I love you so much. I don't want to sin anymore. And so that's what we do. So oftentimes, if I'm going to read the Bible for 30 minutes, I'll say, Jesus, I would like this indulgence, and I wish I did this more, but Jesus, I would like this indulgence, and I try to remember, like when I go to confession, to intend to receive an indulgence next time I have the opportunity. And then, of course, I receive Holy Communion every day as a priest, as I celebrate the Holy Mass. And so I'll have that intention as I receive Holy Communion. So that's the deal with indulgences. It's like when we sin, we break the window. We get forgiven when we go to confession, but we also need to fix the window. And sometimes our dad pays for the window. and takes away that temporal punishment. So somebody would get a plenary indulgence, which, as you heard, includes confession, right? There's confession, communion, prayer for the Pope, and detachment from sin. You got to have those four things, plus the act that you do for the indulgence. And so somebody would do all those things, get a plenary indulgence, and die, then they would go straight to heaven. No purgatory, no past, because God has, through the ministry of the Pope, the power that he gave to the Pope, has given this special grace. We can get indulgences for ourselves. We can also get them for the souls in purgatory. So I can do an indulgence act, and I can apply that to somebody I know who may be in purgatory. Someone might be a member of my family who's died. They might be in purgatory and need to go to heaven, and so we should pray for them. Or I can even say to God something like, Lord, please apply this indulgence to the soul in purgatory most in need. Lord, I offer you this for any soul in purgatory. Like, it's your discretion. And the Lord will do that, and will apply that grace to the soul in purgatory. And it's a beautiful way that we work together as the body of Christ, as we love one another. We, the church militant, who are here on earth fighting the battle against the world, the flesh, and the devil, and the church in purgatory, the church suffering, who's suffering for their sins, who is undergoing that purification. That's what purgatory is. That's how it's described in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 as a cleansing through fire. And so the church suffering in purgatory and the church militant on earth, we work together and we apply graces to them, that they might then become part of the church triumphant, which is the saints who are in heaven, and that we might join them. It's very good to pray for the soul in purgatory, because what happens is if I pray for a soul in purgatory and then that person gets out of purgatory and goes to heaven, then surely in the virtue of gratitude, that person is going to pray for me. So I'll be honest with you, I used to go, I wish I had more time to do this these days, but oftentimes when I had more time and I was younger, if I would pass by a graveyard, like at a Catholic church, I would just stop and pray for a little while. And I'd pray for all the souls, all the people who are buried there. And I'd ask all the people who are buried there who are in heaven, whose souls are in heaven, to pray for me. And I asked anyone who was in purgatory that my prayers would let out of purgatory, that they would also pray for me. Just to ask for all the graces and all the intercession as we're one body. You may know we got the diocese. We've been putting out that podcast called One, right, as we're all praying together in this time of pandemic. I encourage you to go to htdiocese.org, coronavirus, or just to shoot right over to the Diocese of Home and Thibodeau Facebook page as we all pray together. Check out the great things there. What else to say about indulgences? Can't say a whole lot about this, but there might be something else coming out about indulgences. So obviously one of the criteria for receiving indulgences is receive Holy Communion, and we can't really do that right now in this time of pandemic. And so I'm pretty sure that the Pope dispensed from that requirement for Friday. So if we watched on Friday, we could receive the indulgence even without receiving Holy Communion. But we may be able to share some things that would help with that as we move forward. But I can't say anything more than that at the moment. Just be on the lookout if you're interested in indulgences, and you should be interested in indulgences because they're a great gift from Jesus through the Holy Father to us, his children. Be on the lookout for further information about that. So I think that's all about indulgences. And hey, it's good to be with y'all for Asked and Answered. And if I don't see you before, I'll see you on Friday for Pray With Me. But I sure hope that we can connect beforehand. Oh, I forgot. Most of us in Morgan City actually got to know each other or a little bit through the Friday videos that we used to do. And just so you know, they're back. They're not necessarily on Fridays, but they are back, and those are at HT Diocese, the HT Diocese Facebook page and YouTube channel. They're also shared here on our Holy Cross Facebook page and on my Facebook page at Father Bryce Higginbotham. So the first one that we did, I think we're recording another one on Friday. I'm not sure when it'll come out, but I think we're filming on Friday. But the first one that's out is, Did God Make the Coronavirus? And so if you're interested in whether or not God made the coronavirus and what all that means, go scroll down a little bit and check out that video. And if it's helpful for you, share it with your friends. Actually, somebody sent an 8-year-old. I thought he was 10, but I misread the message. But anyway, an 8-year-old from our own diocese sent us a message here at Holy Cross and said, "Hey, Father, did God make the coronavirus?" And so I spent the whole 10 minutes of the video answering Isaac's question. And it was a really beautiful experience for me. And if it would be helpful to you, I'd love for you to have the opportunity to see it and to share it. All right. Well, I've been talking for a long time. That's enough. But it's good to be with y'all. I'll be alive, and I'll see y'all soon. Love y'all. God bless you.